Hello everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. You know, every week I kind of talk about how that's the opening. Now, I want to go back to what was I saying before when I first... I gotta go back and watch like the 20th or 30th episode and figure out what the hell I was saying before this, because I feel like I've been saying that the whole time. Anyway, videos at the bottom of the video because, you know, redundancy. Those of you watching on Twitch may be watching for the first time because we have a larger than usual crowd today. I think because Fig hosted us earlier, so the numbers are a little bit higher if it's your first time watching this. Yeah, I'm doing this as like a YouTube thing. Like on YouTube, there's videos at the bottom. You click them and go to different videos on my channel. So just explaining that for the newcomers. As for... This week, man, this is where my year like really begins because you have patch 3.5 this week, right? And that's going to mean a handful of guides for the channel. Next week is Kingdom Hearts 2.8. Next week is Tales of Berseria. Next week is the Carnival and Final Fantasy 15. Then on top of that, this Friday is Dragon Quest 8 on the 3DS, which I have to see if I'm getting or not. I would like to. And then I have to go to KupoCon next week, which is an unofficial Final Fantasy convention that's being held in Newark, New Jersey. They're all sold out. I got a panel to do for that. And then in February, it only, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn, Fan Fest, just everything starts piling on from this point on. So every Monday after this, I might look more tired than usual because I'm going to be around the clock and then Stormblood eventually. After all the 6 months are over, it's just actually beginning because then Stormblood. Whew, it's going to be busy, but I'm looking forward to it. So those 3 videos at the bottom, there's going to be a lot more of that coming soon. Anyway, I got not as many questions as last week, so we should get to more Twitch questions this week. So let's get to it. All right, first question. Hello again, Mr. Happy. Thanks for the answer last week. You're welcome. I never remember what it's about, but you're welcome. I find it a little ironic that your answer dealt with people getting black mage mechanics wrong, where I've mained it for some time and used to teach newbies around my server some time ago. I remember what question this was. On the last week's other question, that's right, because I only did one question per person last week. I've recently started Alexander Savage with some friends, where I'm the main tank as Paladin. I'm currently sat at I-251 with the prototype Alexandrian set with the Shire Fending Ring. Is that the ring with Parry on it? I don't remember. I think it is. And the Sophic shield and sword. Should I be melding anything onto my gear to get through a 3 Savage? A 3? You mean like Gordius? No! I mean, you should have melds for when you get to A9 through 12. But I don't know why you guys... Oh, so you guys are like doing a full like go through Alexander. That's actually kind of neat. That you guys are doing that. Like you start the static and you're going to go through all the old Alexanders and then get to the new ones. I mean, you've got plenty of time to kill before the expansion. But no, you don't need anything for A3 Savage. You will need them for A9 to 12. And you might as well. You're not going to get any gear upgrades from 1 through 8. So unless you're planning on getting like gear upgrades like the day of the patch with like Shire stuff or any of the Dunscaith gear, yeah, you might as well just melt that stuff. Even just give it grade 4s just to get past it. But have fun with A3 Savage. I mean, with all the DPS, the echo, everything nowadays, all those old ones are like so much easier. But I think it's cool that you guys are actually starting from the OG Gordius Savage and working your way up. It should be a fun experience. So have a good one. Next one. Hey, Mr. Happy, have my take on the Samurai question. What do you think should be the level 3 limit break for Samurai? Zanmato or Rashomon? I have no idea. I cannot even answer that question. However, depending on my answer, you've given me 2 results. So I'm going to go with Zanmato. It's a damage dealer. Apparently, one of these was a tank LB and one of these was a DPS LB. So I'm assuming if I had picked Rashomon, it's a tank. So, yep, there you go. Samurai DPS confirmed. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. First time asker. Bet you don't remember me, but if you do, have all the bird mounts as a bonus. I lost my Nidhogg bird by 4 today. I have 2 questions, which would be pretty easy to answer. Seeing as we're getting Final Fantasy XIV X Garo very soon, which collab would you like to see in the future? Personally, I would love to see a collab event with BlazBlue. I'm impartial to collab events. Like, if they do them, fantastic. After the Yokai Watch event, I really don't care about collab events. Garo is luckily just PvP armor. So it's like, it's not even really that much of a collab, and that I'm kind of cool with. But I mean, BlazBlue will probably never happen. But Final Fantasy 15 is the easy answer. So I'm looking forward to that one. Do you think we'll ever get a true ranged physical DPS? Listen, Bard and Machinist are 2 of the highest performing DPSs in the game right now. So yes, I do. In fact, we already have 2 of them. All right, next question. Hey, Haps, hope you are having a great day. I'm having a good one. Thumbs up. Vohayo. Just one question for you today. With the Gato event being very close, the queue times for PvP hopefully getting a lot better in Europe, I thought of getting into PvP for the first time. The jobs I would like to use were either any of the tanks or Ninja, and these are the jobs I'm most comfortable with. Do you have any advice for me about the 4 jobs in PvP not getting completely destroyed? Well, Ninja's very much about opening up opportunity in front lines. You're very capable of bursting people down and all the chaos of everything going on. Whether or not you're stealthing in, stealth is really slow. So a lot of ninjas try to avoid it unless they're scouting an area or they're sure that they can get a jump on somebody and they won't be discovered. But most of the time, because people are always moving around, it's very rare unless you see someone who's kind of like newish and you just see them standing there casting uninterrupted. You're just like, no one's paying attention. Crack his neck. Sorry, Black Mage. As for the tanks, I mean, all the tanks are pretty decent. Warrior is probably the one that gets the most love in PvP because they can literally two-shot people with, you know, with Berserk Fellcleaves. So that's one thing. But most of the time the tanks kind of peel or they just kind of draw attention. Depends on what you're going for. It depends though, but they're all pretty flexible. Like Paladin can stun lock somebody to death, especially if you're queuing with a DPS friend. Going with a Paladin, if you're queuing with 2 friends, if you're queuing Paladin, Healer, DPS, then you can completely shut anything down in like front lines, because most people aren't coordinated enough to protect someone from a Paladin opener into a melee bursting. It's just in regular feasts, they're usually much better. Like people are very good at countering that, but in front lines, most people just aren't paying enough attention. So you can really destroy people. And then Dark Knight I haven't really followed the Dark Knight buffs in PvP because they've gotten quite a few of them. What I remember is they were really good at disengaging, where like if somebody jumps on the healers, a Dark Knight's very good at removing some of the threat there. But I don't remember them exactly, so I don't want to comment on them too much. So yeah, I mean, they all have their pros and cons. Ninja is what I go to with PvP, and what I love about it is you have 2 gap closers, which is fine because you actually have the gap closer in can't remember, Overwhelm. Ill Wind being a 3-second AoE silence, you can completely shut down an entire backline. If you land Ill Wind on 2, maybe 3 people who are all casters, whether they be healers, or you can just win the whole thing on those 3 seconds just with no ability to respond. And your ability to burst people down is great. So you might want to try Ninja of the 4. But as a tank, sometimes people ignore you in front line, so it might be more comfortable for you. I'd say those are some of the pros and cons that you could work with right there. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Haps A. I hope you're having a good day. Time viewer. First time posters have a bonus of a bag of nails and a used hammer. You never know when it could come in handy. Okay, I just want you to know I'm not like tying somebody to a cross and like I'm not putting Jesus on the cross, so I definitely don't need that, but thank you. Here's my question. I have noticed you stopped talking about skill trees in 14. We used to talk about it a lot not so long ago. Did you lose hope to ever see some kind of skill trees? Well, I always wanted... What eventually happened is I moved away from skill trees, and I moved towards just having a button you could press that switches what role your job is. And I moved away from that because I think at this point we kind of just won't see it. They'd rather design a bunch of jobs that have one dedicated role than a job that they have to worry about the balance between 2 different roles. Even just Arcanist splitting into Scholar and Summoner was a big problem balance-wise for them for a pretty long time. And it still resulted in Scholar being... Honestly, Arcanist being the base class of Scholar is part of the reason why Scholar has remained as dominant as it has. Its DPS output, its mana output. Arcanist's pre-30 skills are actually so ridiculously powerful that when you add Scholar's skills on top of them, it just gets crazy. Like, actually, all of the Arcanist skills are just generally powerful because they're trying to make Summoner feel good, and Scholar reaps all the benefits of the DPS side of things. So I just don't see them doing it, ultimately. And skill trees, ultimately, you don't really get a decision with a skill tree. You just get the best skills imaginable, and that's it. Maybe you change something up for PvP, or you change something up for AoE, but it's such a minute decision-making part. I understand why WoW moved away from them, in all honesty, although I'm not a big fan of the whole, here's 3 abilities, pick one thing that WoW had. I don't know if that's still the thing. That's like my old memory working with me right there. But I could see why they moved away from it. All right, next question. Hey, Haps, Red here. I bet you're going to get a lot of questions, so I'll keep it short. Thanks. Thanks for being considerate. With the crossover Party Finder on Horizon, do you think you would use it for your channel and connect to your fan base? Oh, yeah. I've already been doing more stuff with my Gilgamesh link shell with the Party Finder a little bit more recently. Like we were doing Nidhogg farm. Some people hadn't even beat Nidhogg or had first-time bonus. And we got someone a burb. We did a burb farm yesterday. Those are the Heavensward birds. I call them burbs. That's what we call them. And then I've just been doing like, roulettes with people in the link shells. I haven't been randomly queuing in very much. And if I need to fill a party finder, I do a cross server. I tell my chat, here's a password. That's good. Yeah, I'll definitely be using it for things like that when it comes to Twitch. All right, next question. Looking to be a big week already, and it's just Monday. Yes. Howdy, Haps. By the time I'm seeing this, the servers are down, and looking forward to it is intensifying. Yeah, that's going to be a day. I'm going to sleep at like 4 in the afternoon because I'm going to wake up at like just after midnight, probably, and then get ready for the stream, go live a little early, and then right to Zervan. So every now and then I'll see you in an Orzi. I typically wave and move on, but I got wondering today, how much attention do you get in game and how do you handle it? Does your presence affect how much attention your free company gets? First of all, my free company gets attention because a lot of people are well known and because they competed for World First. I'm just a member in the free company, and my, status doesn't really enhance Elysium's brand in any way, because I'm not like one of the people who's competing for World First. I raid, and I raid casually with a few members, but I wouldn't say in any way it affects the attention my free company gets. I'd say they all are very much capable of drawing attention to our free company, whether through accomplishments or through straight up memeing on Twitter. As for how I get really uncomfortable when people like start emote spamming me in game, and I just usually type /panic and run away. I get really, really uncomfortable when like dance parties and stuff form around me and stuff like that. I'm just like, I just want to play the game like normal. I want to be normal again. I'm super introvert when it comes to that. Even though I can be in front of a camera perfectly fine, and I can be at a convention perfectly fine, when that happens, I'm just like, please, I don't want this. I don't want this. Please. So, yeah, hopefully that was it. And I see you, Kiltastic Jones. I've seen that name around Gilgamesh before. Let's see. P.S. My hat is round. Round is my hat. If it's not round, it's not my hat. I'm going to pretend I didn't just read that. Moving on. And next question. What's the Haps? Haps? Anyways, I love your Best Jerry series. Have you ever thought of doing an episode strictly on the main villains? Yes, actually, I have. There's a few, actually, that I've seen. The different limit breaks. I've seen the main villains, the main protagonists. I mean, both of them, because I never did one for all the protagonists either. More of the weapon types. At this point, it's Barley. Yeah, it's Barley. It's barely even Best Year. It's literally just like the name of the series, but it's not even like the enemies necessarily. It's like all aspects of recurring functionality or recurring enemies or anything inside the Final Fantasy series. So yeah, I've definitely considered doing that, and it's in the pipeline to get done eventually. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Longtime viewer, first time asking. Bonus is my eternal appreciation for all your videos. Any idea what the book says that a panda stands on in the library? From what I understand, I believe Ethis has said that every single book inside of the Google library is just the same generic shit on all the books. He hates that it's all the same generic shit, too. So I'm going to take his word, because that's the last thing I remember him saying about those books. I'm going to say that, no, I cannot read it, because it is standard gibberish that all the books, it's all exactly the same in all the books. All right, next question. Yo, Hap, Siggity Sups. What's up, man? Take this Ethis Muppet as a reward. Ooh, Muppet. That damn Muppet. But seriously, I was wondering, did you ever play Tera Online? No. And I like that it's bolded. I heard the company was making a PS4 version. Would you do videos when it hits the PS4? If you haven't tried it, would you, since it's easier to access with a PS4? I don't know if it's easier to access on the PS4. I mean, I play everything on PC anyway. And last question, I promise. I noticed that last week you only took one question from everyone because of the large amount of questions. You need to keep the video in a nice time frame. My question is, why wouldn't you just take all the questions to make the video longer? For multiple reasons. One, I got shit to do. Two, because when a video reaches a certain point, like as a YouTuber, there's a lot of little rules that you try to follow as a video creator. And when it comes to Mondays with Mr. Happy, I can see how much of Mondays with Mr. Happy the average population watches. And it's usually about 9 minutes. And when I do an hour and 9 minute video, the idea is that the higher above your average watch time that you are, it's almost like it's a sign that you're making your videos too long, because people's retention rate is too low to warrant you having a video that long. Most of the shorter Mondays with Mr. Happy's, though, like the 30 to 40 minute ones, those generally have closer to 16, 17 minute retention rates, because people kind of almost feel like it's actually digestible. So I try to keep those things in mind whenever I'm designing videos. If I want to say things and I want it to be longer, then I will. But when I'm trying to do Twitch questions, YouTube questions, and then people are asking 2, 3, 4 questions, I'm here for 90 minutes, and it's like, okay, well, I was supposed to be done by this time so I could get it rendered and then go do this and then I can eat and et cetera, et cetera. It all has to fall within a schedule. So that's really the biggest reason why. That's where, again, going back to Tera with the PS4, it's a maybe, but I've never really had much interest in Tera. Not that I've ever had anything too negative to say, just, you know, Korean Grindfest, which I've played plenty of in the past. Action combat, that's fun, but occasionally eventually gets very repetitive, like anything would. But it gets repetitive a little bit faster. But that's kind of why I've never touched it, because it's just like so many other games like that I've played. You know, it pretty much falls right in line with so many of the Korean Grindfest MMOs that I've played. But if I had to make a recommendation, Twin Saga. Twin Saga is the most fun I've had playing Korean Grindfest in a long time. So I got to revisit that. That's what I got to revisit. It's more Twin Saga. But anyway, actually, we also used to have classes together at NJIT. God damn, you know, you're now the second person who I know who has had classes. One of my classmates from my video game classes back at NJIT, which is the college I attended, he's actually in LBR Nika's raid group. And we like to dick around about college and laugh about it all the time. Good times. It's very funny. So anyway, with that out of the way, hopefully we got along at NJIT, because I obviously, by your online name, I'm not going to remember who you were. And hope it was good. All right, next question. Oh, I know that that's like supposed to be somebody like waving, but I just call it oh, because that's what, I don't know. Recently gone over all the Stay the Realm podcast in preparation for decent, stable internet. So my question is, what are your thoughts on creating raids in a way where it becomes more about how powerful a boss, more about how powerful of a boss you can kill instead of how fast you can clear X content. One example is another game is creating a boss and players can select a percentage value of his stats versus him at certain milestones. For example, 1,000%, all of a sudden a new mechanic is involved. Well, at that point, I'm not a big fan of scaling difficulty in the first place, like, you know, multiple raids of tiers. I accept that it's a necessary evil, because not everybody wants the hardest fight, not everybody, but if you're going to create this resource and you're going to put this much work into it, then you probably want to make sure that most people are at least seeing it on one difficulty. So you have the difficulty that more people are able to access, and that's generally a successful thing in the new MMO, the new modern MMO industry. But when it comes to flat percentages, it becomes a lot more ambiguous, because ultimately you're still creating a fight that needs to be clearable by the party. And if you're going to just add mechanics at set percentages of stat increases, then you might as well have just made tiered difficulties for all that, because you still had to put in all the effort to balance every single percentage. You need to know how achievable these things are, or how it's going to react. You can't just test like 1, 2, or 3 percentages and then every other percentage, you know, is just fine. You know what I mean? You need to then take the time to test so many different percentages, and it is just totally not worth doing in that case. At this point, if you're going to make it so that a flat percentage, a new mechanic introduced, you might as well just make it a new difficulty, like a flat new difficulty, and that is the percentage of its stats that it's actually going to end up being. I don't think it adds any longevity to a boss, any more longevity. Besides, we don't need more longevity of a boss. We already see these bosses enough as is. And if they do decide to add that third difficulty and the odd numbered patches, which is what they seem to be leaning towards right now, it's still going to be the same boss. Like, we don't need to keep seeing more of the same boss. I'd rather see more bosses in general. All right, next question. Hi. Why are boss rotations a set rotation instead of randomized? For example, Final Fantasy VI. Okay, first of all, you can never compare a single-player Final Fantasy game to an MMO. Second of all, most of the old school Final Fantasy games, there is somewhat of a manipulatable pattern, although you really need to dig into the files to dig it. Also, when you're learning an encounter in an MMO setting where there's other people involved, that's the biggest thing. You got to realize you're not the only one playing right now. You know what I mean? You can't just make things completely random when there's no sense and they could just do the same game-breaking attack back to back to back to back to back. Jobs and your preparations aren't designed in such a way to handle that. And at that point, it's not necessarily more fun because it's random. You're just creating random so it falls out of a set rotation because you're bothered by patterns. You want things that are a little bit more random. It's not necessarily more fun. Most people don't find that fun or satisfying or good game design nowadays overall. Most people want something that is set in stone where you can actually progress and you can't say, well, I got fucked by RNG, sad face. That's just not the industry today. That's not fun to the current generation of gamers. And especially in an MMO setting, that's just generally bad design. Final Fantasy IX's Ozma, who could kill you in the first 2 moves, yeah. How fun was that? How fun was the Ozma fight in Final Fantasy IX? You want random? That motherfucker has got random on lock. Although he does have a pattern. It's just a shit pattern with too many variables in a sense. But yeah, I don't think that makes the game any more fun. It just makes it more frustrating, and people are more likely to leave faster if you were to do something along those lines. Because, hey, I got world first because he never used this game fucking shattering attack that, you know, wipes the group. Oh well. Fucking sorry I didn't get world first because I've RNG. Yeah, it's not gonna... Raid scene's not gonna work well. Alright, next question. Been watching your videos since I started playing 14, which is my first Final Fantasy game. Hey, high five. What got me hooked on the franchise, but this is my first time asking a question. So a bonus of the new 4.0 Tombstone. I wonder if they'll still call them Tombstones. I wonder. They definitely will, but I have to wonder if they're not going to move away from Tombstones, or if they're going to go to, like, Alamegan of philosophy, like Alamegan coins. I don't know. We'll see. So here's my question. Given that Stormblood is coming in less than half a year, crazy, right? It's like 5 months away. I wanted to know your thoughts at this time with no hints yet given what you think we could expect to see from Stormblood and its story finishes however long from now. So Stormblood ultimately is going to end with the complete obliteration of the 12th Legion, or at least a complete dismantling of the 12th Legion. And that'll probably happen sooner rather than later, probably by 4.3. I don't think we'll necessarily have it dismantled by the end of 4.0. But I think Omega is going to play a big part after 3.5. He's going to also play a big part in 4.0, I imagine. And it's, I don't know, there's not really much else you can draw. It wouldn't be surprising to see the leader of the 12th Legion kill the current Emperor, just based on the fact that the 12th Legion... The whole naming convention behind the legions, like it being the 12th Legion, is supposed to play on the fact that the villain is very reminiscent to Vayne Salador of Final Fantasy XII. For example, Nail Van Darnus, Summoned Meteor, 7th Legion, Sephiroth. Got it? Gaius Van Belsar, 14th Legion, completely original story to Final Fantasy XIV. And then you have currently Regula Van Hydrus, obsessed with the Warring Triad and its power, Final Fantasy VI Kefka, you know? So with 12, we should expect him to be somewhat like Vayne Salador. We'll see where it actually goes, but there's so little to actually draw from it. I'm more interested in things like Return to Ivalice or Alamigo's history and how Omega ends up tying into the story and things like that. So we'll have to see where it goes, but I expect it to follow something very similar to Final Fantasy XII's story, where you know, Alamigo is almost caught in between war in a sense. All right, next question. Yo, Mr. Happy, Beast Tribe related questions this time. Let's get it. I've recently started doing Ixal and Vanu quests to work towards the triple triad fight you unlock at the end. Ooh, I forgot that those had triple triad fights locked behind the Beast Tribe quest. I've only completed Nath before. I noticed these tribes reward different amounts of reputation. The Ixal gives you 7 missions per day instead of 3 like the other two. Is there a reason the Beast Tribes are set up? You know what? I remember Ixals being set up differently because people complained about the way the previous 4 were set up. And they were also crafting, so people were using them for leveling, which was a big thing. And then on top of that, when it comes to the Heavensward ones, again, people were just complaining about the rate of reputation gains. And because they extended it from just 4 ranks, like the original ones, to 8 ranks, I know obviously the original ones and the Ixals could hit 7, and then with the Allied Beast Tribe quest, you could hit 8. It's very different from doing dailies every day to get to max rank. It's mostly just based on patch-to-patch feedback, you know. Oh, Vanus, those were great, but they didn't give enough reputation, and they didn't give scripture. So what they do with the Vath, they made the Vath give scripture, they made them give the capable tombstone. At the time, it was actually lore. Now they give scripture. And they made them give slightly more reputation, so you could progress on it a little bit faster while not feeling like you were falling behind on other beast tribes. Mughals, they went back down to 50, but because you were leveling crafters and the quests were so easy, no one really complained. And also the rewards were generally better off the bat than the other beast tribes were. So there's a lot of feedback related things that go into why those beast tribe quests have been so different. Also, I see you've noticed that the Ixal quests are a pain in the ass. No, you're saying you're having trouble with them. That's because they're a pain in the ass compared to the Moogle quests, and I don't like them. So hopefully you can get past them, but they're decent for leveling. But honestly, that's going to be sped up in a little bit anyway. So once Crafter is 50, want to do Moogle. The Moogles are so much easier than the Ixal. Just do them. And on top of that, you get glass fibers. So if you are a crafter, you can make luminous fibers, make a lot of gil. Glass fibers I've been selling for like 40 to 70k a pop, and it's been totally worth it. So yeah, definitely do the Moogle quests. All right, next question. Howdy, Mr. Happy. First time question, but people give you so much stuff as it is. For me, you get no bonus. Don't blame me. Blame yourself. Or God. That got real dark. All right. As a veteran of 11, I've always missed the skill chain and magic burst dynamic in party combat. All right, this isn't your fault, but I'm going to say, here we go. I would always plan the skill chain with my party. Okay, I think I know where this is going. Combat feels isolated. Everyone manages their own rotations, communications. Half the time, I feel like 14 might be a single player fall. Do you think 14 community can handle would benefit? No, I don't think they benefit. I don't think it's not about handling. It's about the pace of combat. Final Fantasy XI is one of the slowest combat-paced games. MMOs, just one of the slowest. I mean, Eve is probably the slowest, but it's one of the slowest. So taking the time to stop and organize these things is generally more acceptable because it's so slow, because you're not constantly hitting abilities. Final Fantasy XIV is focused on you knowing how to play the game, you knowing how to play the job, you being responsible for dodging, etc., etc., etc. I don't know why I grew up, I was taught just the accent, etc., etc. It's etc. I'm fixing it right now. Anyway, moving on. With the combat being faster paced, by no means do you benefit from stopping and going, whoa, skill chain. You just don't benefit from it, you know? It's that they tried it in Final Fantasy XIV 1.0, and it broke the fucking game. First of all, it was boring as shit. If anybody was too slow with it, although to be fair, that system was not exactly the same as skill chaining. But when you did make it work, man, you should have seen what happened to some of those bosses. They said they wanted to bring it back in some capacity, and the limit break ended up being how they brought it back, which is nothing like the system was in 1.0. Thank God. That being said, yeah, I don't think it's beneficial. I think things like timing your cooldowns between trick attacks, or knowing when the hypercharge is going to come up so you can see if you want to save your blood for blood, or those are where you see synergy and where you see people working together to optimize. Not, hey, I have 100 TP. You have 88? Okay, I'll wait till you land the hit. Miss. Obviously, you wouldn't miss in 14, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it sucked. Next question. All right, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. First time question. So all the bonus you want in 4.0 early access. We might still be getting early access. This Friday, they're having a pre-order reveal live stream where they're going to reveal pre-order bonuses. Early access. That would mean the 17th of June we would get early access. I wanted to know if 14 is willing to put in a glamour system for chocobos to look like other mounts, so we can take pictures standing next to our mounts. What are your thoughts? Okay, actually, at first when I read this, I was like, what the hell? Just summon your other mount. When you said take pictures while not sitting on your mount, that's actually interesting. I think that's something they could work in just to the camera, to like the group pose or the idle camera. You know what? I don't think it's going to be a matter of glamoring your chocobo. I think it's a matter of in your camera being able to set a mount that you're standing alongside. You know what I mean? Like, just hardwire it into the game. Because otherwise, if you're able to like if I was able to glamour my chocobo to look like Twin Tanya, and all of a sudden I'm fighting alongside Twin Tanya out there, that's not going to happen. But I do think that your idea of being able to take, I guess, more personalized pictures with your mounts, where you're not just riding them, you're not just on their back, you're actually almost sort of like creating a bonding moment. I think a lot of people who are very much keen on these, you know, on the camera functions and things like that, would probably appreciate something along those lines. So no to the glamour for your chocobos, but yes to the idea of adding it to the group pose picture functionality, which is already getting a bunch of love this patch anyway. All right, next question. What's happening, Hap Man? First time asker here, so I have a first time bonus of all the tomestones you will ever need now and forever. TLDR is at the bottom. I also apologize if this question has been asked before. You are a very considerate person. High five. Let me read the questions first, let's see if I need the backup. Would you have any tips or macros to help combat Machinist tunnel vision, or is the tunnel vision just something I need to push through if I want to excel the job? Great, I don't need any backstory for that. That is something you just need to push through on any job. Tunnel vision is something that kind of requires active effort to prevent. Some people, it's not even like they can't handle it. It's just the way their brain wants to process the information in front of them. It wants to solve the immediate puzzle in front of them, and it wants to block everything out. I mean, sometimes that's ADD, sometimes it's ADHD, sometimes you can, obviously things like an Adderall would create that effect. And sometimes people just don't necessarily have any of those things, and it's just kind of the way they grew up processing things. You know what I mean? So it kind of takes an active effort to get away from tunnel vision. You need to deliberately tell your brain to focus on other things until it's natural. Because I'm someone who used to have tunnel vision issues, and I was never diagnosed with like ADD or ADHD, and I was never someone to pop Addies or anything like that. Even in college, I was one of the people who's like, why do you guys need to pop Addies to study? And they're like, I can't focus. And I was like, okay, I don't understand it, so I'm just going to leave that alone. So yeah, I mean, and eventually what I did to get away from it was I pushed things towards the center of the screen. You see my hotbar layout, a lot of it's kind of pushed towards the middle. And what I did was I just kind of slowly expanded the, sort of the width of my tunnel vision. It's like, okay, well, part of my party bar is in where I'm tunnel visioning. So I kind of just told my brain to expand where the tunnel was. And then I covered the party list, and then, oh, well, some of my hotbars are in there, so now I can push it. So it's almost like a spiral outwards from the center of the screen of all of my HUD layout, and it basically keeps my brain going, okay, well, only half of this thing is in my current line of thought. I need the whole thing to be in my current line of thought. So it's really weird the way my brain kind of processes what's on the screen. I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of why my hotbar is the way it is, and why my party list is so close to the center, and why, and just why my HUD is laid out the way it is, because it helped me combat tunnel vision all those years ago, and it's still kind of where I keep everything. 2, do you think Square Enix would ever do a redesign of Machinist to eliminate the RNG? No, as someone who's been playing Machinist so much, it doesn't bother me. It's kind of feels good to me when I do get a proc. Yes, it doesn't feel good when I don't, but I think it's a decent part of Machinist. It makes Machinist very, very relaxed to play, because at the worst possible time, you only have 3 buttons to press in terms of your global cooldowns. Which gives you plenty of time to focus on your off global cooldowns. And then when you have things like quick reload and reload, and you're doing your opener, you're doing your burst, then you have only 2 other GCD buttons that you're really worrying about. So I feel like it's fine the way it is. I guess I'll just say that. I think it's fine the way it is. All right, next question. Hey Haps, I feel like giving you a bonus this week, so I have 2 win streak for the next 2 times you participate in Aerosivia. Dude, I've come so unprepared to every Aerosivia. 1 week I will prepare, and I will shatter Sly's dreams. So to the question, which is a little different this week, are there any bands, musician, artists you would love to see live? Daft Punk. That's it. Daft Punk. Winner, chicken dinner. I don't care to see any of these fucking modern DJs throw their hands in the air and fucking have these little digital turntables that they don't even touch. They just press play on iTunes, and don't get me wrong, I'm from New Jersey. I fucking fist bump all the time, but this, as a live performance, I don't give a shit. If you're not rolling, then what the hell are you doing there anyway? And then, like, rock bands, I could do like a rock band for maybe like half an hour, and after that, I just get like tired and whatever. I just like all of a sudden I'm like at the very back, just like listening to the songs. And it's like I might as well not even be at the concert. So give me Daft Punk, because Daft Punk is like a good mix of like modern house and entertainment and good music and fucking lights everywhere. And you don't see them doing this 90% of the time, because they're actually pulling knobs. They're actually like, hey, knob, up, down, left, right, equalizer, next song, done. Two iTunes, done. See, because he has one, I have one. iTunes, there you go. So yeah, I'm going to go with Daft Punk, winner. All right, next question. Hey, Happy, how you doing? I'm doing all right, how you doing? Been a while since I posted, so no bonus, but I brought cookies. I like cookies. What do you think the best way to level up Red Mage and the other new jobs coming in 4.0? Dungeons, Faith, Palace of the Dead, other. I don't know what the fuck other is supposed to be. When I say best, I don't necessarily mean fastest, since this will be the opportunity to learn a new job. So Palace of the Dead, horrible place to learn a new job. I regret to say that 50 to 60 will probably be done in Palace of the Dead by most people. Palace of the Dead won't go above 60. I don't imagine people using it from 60 to 70, even for secondary jobs. So, Fates probably still won't be popular pre-60. Don't forget, I also expect the Armory bonus to go up to 100% from 50 to 60. A lot of people haven't even thought about that. The Armory bonus from 1 to 50 was buffed to 100%, while our current 51 to 60 is still 50%. That'll probably get buffed to 100%, so 50 to 60 will go considerably faster, which should actually help with the dungeon runs, because I believe I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if Palace of the Dead benefits from the armory bonus, which may make dungeons the dominant thing, which I hope it is, because you really should be learning how to play those new jobs in a dungeon. So a mix of Palace of the Dead and dungeons is kind of where I expect it to go. I don't know that they'll give us any easier options, so I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go with a mix of dungeons and Palace of the Dead, with dungeons actually being the highest EXP gain as long as you got a pre-made and you're blowing through them quick enough. Alright, next question. Hello, Mr. Happy. Longtime viewer, first-time poster. I hear it is customary to give a gift in the form of a bonus. As such, I grant you the ability to summon your favorite Final Fantasy 15 meal by saying everyone's favorite catchphrase. I've come up with a new recipe. That's my cheer notification on... In fact, hold on. I think I can actually play it for you guys. Because you guys over on YouTube, you guys never get to see things like this. So hold on. I'm going to actually divert away from the question. Don't worry. I'll come back to it. But I am going to treat you to the notification right now. Let's see. And no, nobody in the chat needs to cheer here. I'm just going to blow it up on the screen. Here we go. So that's where my things usually play. So what we do is we color key it, similarity, and then we bump the similarity to about 50, the blend to about 10. Actually, 50 is a little too high for the similarity. I could have got away with 20. And then I'll just scroll back through my list of cheers. Here we go. And... hold on, let me do this. And this is what it looks like.
That's it. I've come up with a new recipe.
I hope you enjoy this. So that's what my cheer notification is over on Twitch. So there you go. I get new recipes all the time. Now let's take that off the screen so it's not there anymore. So now, guys, that thing is removed. It will not pop up on the screen. Just wanted to let you know. PS status effects included. Awesome. My question is about your glasses. I'm a longtime gamer and now I work on computers all day. As such, my vision is starting to fade a bit and I think my computer TV screen usage is making it worse. The company I work for offers a discount to a company that sells them and my insurance will cover enough that I can buy the yellow tinted glasses with my prescription. I have been debating getting them to help. I see you wear them, but not all streamers do. Do you find they help you? Would you recommend them to others? So I bought these specifically, as you said, because I was working on computers every day. If you're working on one computer every day, F.Lux is usually more than proficient in helping with your eyes. That's a program that tints your screen so you don't have to wear glasses. As somebody who, my job was literally looking at 10, 15 different computers, and it was not always the same 10 or 15 computers. I definitely benefited from these. My eyesight got a lot better. I felt a lot less strain. I was getting less headaches, everything. So I would definitely say they were worth it. More so if you're looking at a lot of computers, less so if you're a gamer looking at a single computer. And these are Gunners. Whatever brand you're getting, I'm sure they work just as fine. But just as a reference, I got these at like a Best Buy for 80 bucks, and it was totally worth it. I've been using them for almost 5 years now, and I don't regret it. I think it's been one of the better decisions I've made when it comes to taking care of my eyes, because normally I just don't. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely worth it, especially if your insurance will cover it. Definitely, yeah. I think we got this and one more question, and then I'm going to move on over into Twitch questions. Yeah, there's one more question after this. Although oh no, there's two more questions. Somebody asked a question while I was answering questions. I think they must have. So, live long and prosper, Happy. Is it this? I'm not a Trekkie, so I think it's this, right? When it's live long and prosper. I don't remember. Have the Gato mount of your choice. All of them. Looking forward to 3.5. Here are my questions. For Paladin, should you include Fracture in your rotation? No. I've heard that Paladin can have TP issues. Yeah, that was going to be just don't Fracture. That's it. That's the answer to the question. I can move on to the second question now. About keyboard macros, are they allowed in 14? I've heard people say they've gotten in trouble for using keyboard macros. By the way, guys, he's not talking about like macros that you put in game that you put all your rotations on and whatnot. I've heard of people using them, and it's almost been reminiscent of botting because of the way they've set them up. So I've heard of people getting in trouble, but I have nothing to back that up. So I know a few people who have used them in the past, and I'll just say to be determined. I don't think there's any way necessarily for Square Enix to track that, but they might be suspicious of you to the point where you get in trouble. So that's the best I got for you, unfortunately. 3, how different is the community between Chaos and Primal? I've never been to Chaos, although it's EU. Chaos is EU, I think. Yeah, I think Chaos Data Center is EU and Primal is NA. So that's the biggest difference, is you're dealing with Europeans, which, by the way, some servers have French and German communities, some have mostly English-speaking communities. So again, then that even... Chaos, you can't even say as a data center has one type of community, because there are so many subdivisions of communities on the European data center. Primal Primal, so the one thing I noticed about Primal, I had the Healer Happy series on Primal for a long time. And more often on Primal than not, it was less acceptable to be a min-maxer. I definitely saw, I saw plenty of times where it was okay, but I saw more often than not on Primal that if you were, like, for example, a healer that was DPSing, even if everyone's alive and it's perfectly fine, nobody's even remotely in danger. I have seen so many cases on Primal where healers get booted from parties, tanks get booted for going DPS stance. I've seen, and by the way, I almost never see DPS get booted for poor performance, for getting hit by mechanics and stuff. But I'll see the fucking healer get booted for keeping the tank alive and contributing DPS. Oh no. Now don't get me wrong, if you're a healer and you fuck it up and you're talking shit the whole time and then you let the tank die, okay, yeah, you're probably getting a ban even on, or not even a ban, a boot on Gilgamesh as well. But on Primal, just for making the effort, I've seen it so many times. In 24-mans, in 4-mans, in 8-mans. So, yeah, that's all I know about Primal. Also, the queue times were longer. So, I don't have the best of experiences with the Primal Day Center. Granted, I'm on Gilgamesh, so I don't have the greatest experience anywhere. So, yeah, I guess those are two very different things. We're also on Chaos, by the way. That was not a problem, from what I can understand. So, I don't know. That's the best I got, since I'm not on either of those data centers. All right, next question over on the forums. Let's see. Hey, Mr. Happy, this is Final Sim, and welcome to my question on your channel. Oh, man, I just heard you on stream saying that you can sit down and list everything that's wrong in each Final Fantasy. So you know. Can you please? I think I actually have done this in recent weeks. Since Final Fantasy 15 has come out, I think I've done this on at least one episode. Final Fantasy 1, just, it's a foundation. Gameplay-wise, you know, the whole charges on spells, which was fixed in a later thing. The story, super lackluster. It's a really basic 1980s fantasy story with almost no sort of meat or bones or meaningful storytelling. Those are really the biggest things. In terms of balancing, a lot of spells didn't work. A lot of spells were useless in certain points of the game. The fact that you had to pick your jobs at the beginning with no knowledge of how the game was actually going to play out and then just react to it, which some would argue is a positive thing, others would argue is bullshit. So Final Fantasy 2, everything. The D&D style leveling sucks in that game. The bosses in that game suck. The game is cheesable for the entire second half. Agility skill ups fucking suck. The storytelling sucks. The story sucks. Everything about Final Fantasy 2 sucks. Except the Final Fantasy music. That's it. And everyone dies, and it's really interesting at times. Final Fantasy 3, the difficulty and the storytelling are super, like, ugh. The difficulty of that game is in its complete bullshit RNG. A lot of the jobs are damn near useless. The job system was in its infancy here. It's definitely the inferior job system compared to Final Fantasy V and other later things. Final Fantasy, again, the difficulty is a problem. The story is just not very interesting. They tried to make it more personalized in the 3D version by giving all the characters names and stuff. That didn't really work. What do you have? Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy IV is, of course, one of the better done ones. One of the biggest problems with Final Fantasy IV is the pacing of its storytelling. I actually like to compare Final Fantasy IV and 15 in a lot of similar regards, where you're given a lot of characters and you're just kind of supposed to accept that these characters are where they are now with almost little to no background or meaningful storytelling being done. Cecil's growth into a paladin is definitely a satisfying aspect of the story, and there are characters that come and go, but a lot of the time they're just throwing characters at you, removing them, throwing characters at you, removing them, and barely really explaining or giving you enough information to really grow invested in those characters, minus the few like Kain, Cecil, and God, how am I forgetting? I almost said X-Death instead of, because I'm thinking of Zeramis, and I can't get Zeramis out of my head. Golbez, there you go, and Golbez. And then they did After Years, which I haven't even played it yet, so I guess I can't say. Final Fantasy V has, again, another issue with characters and storytelling. Its job system is very well done. It's definitely one of the better job systems done in the entirety of the Final Fantasy franchise. It's kind of where I would say the job system was really born. Some people say it's Final Fantasy 1. That's not a job system, that's just picking jobs. The pacing of Final Fantasy V is definitely a problem, but it's up there higher on my list than a lot of other Final Fantasies, because the problems that it does have with like abilities not really mixing well or difficulty spikes and things like that are really minor, I feel like, compared to a lot of other Final Fantasies. I just feel like the story could have been told a little bit better at certain points, but it does better in its second half than it does in its first half. Final Fantasy VI, I'd say the biggest issue there is probably the progression system. I love it, but it definitely leaves you almost like not wanting to level up is really weird in a Final Fantasy game, to like really not want to level up, and 6 and 8 are really guilty of this, where the game gets you're significantly weaker compared to the enemies if you level up early on, especially in Final Fantasy VI. Also, the fact that the story is so fragmented, and if you don't know exactly where every trigger is for every single individual character interaction, it kind of sucks. Like, you miss so much about what these characters are supposed to be going through or what their actual stories are, and you miss characters altogether. Which is something that, by the way, Final Fantasy VI having missable characters for your party, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first one where there are missable characters that you may never figure out their stories, which benefits you to wander around a little bit more. But I mean, you could literally skip the entire world of Ruin once you have exactly the party that you want and never discover things, and a lot of things are very cryptically hidden. Looking at you, Go-Go. So that being said, it's still my favorite Final Fantasy. I recognize that the progression system dismissing leveling early, and also just there's a lot of broken shit in the very original version, as well as very disjointed storytelling for individual character growth, are definitely weaknesses that game has. Final Fantasy VII it's kind of like my middle of the pack, because it's the first... It was the first game on the PlayStation. It was the first 3D Final Fantasy, so there was a lot of things that just didn't work. The graphics are fucking horrible outside of combat in that game, for example. They are horrendous. There's a lot of mistranslation issues in the original version. There's skills or abilities that don't work or are completely abusable. There's a lot of loopholes in the story that they kind of use to retcon in other shit with the Final Fantasy VII universe. And on top of that, just, I don't know, Cloud doesn't really grow interesting to me till the later half. Early on, he's just like, meh, he just does this over and over again. But that's just that's a personal thing. That's not an actual flaw with the game. I'd say that it being a generation, a first in its generation, it did a pretty damn good job at keeping a lot of that stuff to a minimum. But that still, characters, again, missable characters, which leaves some story to be completely untouched, which is something I just don't appreciate in games all that much. Them Popeye arms, I like to call them horse hooves. Personally, I like to call them horse hooves because they all look like horse hooves to me. But I think it's a world that I'm glad Final Fantasy VII Remake is being done, because I think that that's going to clear up a lot of the translation. I almost want to call them translation loopholes, because a lot of the problems created in that game and a lot of the unanswered questions regarding some aspects of the story, or unclear aspects about whether you're facing Sephiroth or you're facing Genova and things like that, I think those will be more clearly told in the remake. And I think that's really its biggest flaw. So Final Fantasy VII Remake will probably fix that a lot. Also, just the completely breakable combat system. The whole negative number thing. But most Final Fantasies have something super breakable like that, so whatever. Final Fantasy VIII, where do I begin? So the music and the story. The story is hit or miss with a lot of people. I'm actually a fan of the Final Fantasy VIII story, but I'm not a fan of the way it's told at certain parts. You know, Renoa's involvement, she's the most underwhelming female protagonist for me of all the Final Fantasies, just by a landslide. But the rest of it being told, like the macro story, it's very interesting compared to a lot of the other Final Fantasy stories, which are usually a lot more basic. 7 and 8 really tried to take leaps and bounds, and 6 as well tried to take leaps and bounds with this one. Whereas, I guess X that too. I guess from 5, 6, 7, and 8 really took some leaps or bounds with that one. Final Fantasy 4 felt like traditional, but characters had more personalization and skins to them, dedicated jobs and whatnot. So, yeah, Final Fantasy VIII, and then the draw system, the junction system, the broken... I mean, the graphics are better, but they still look fucking awful at times just because of the PlayStation 1 capabilities. Final Fantasy 9... Honestly, my only problem with Final Fantasy 9, I don't like the progression system with the way gear is tied to abilities, and I don't like... and this is just things I don't like. These are not necessarily things wrong with the game. And I don't like the characters. Honestly, I feel so uninvested in most of the characters. Still like Garnet better than Renoa, but whatever. And, what was the other? Oh, and the way the ATB system works in that game is fucking awful. The way it's done and the way that it's tracked is awful. But honestly, I think Final Fantasy IX is one of the best put together Final Fantasy games out there. Final Fantasy X, the voice acting. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think Japanese voice acting is better than English voice acting. I just don't like the voice acting in Final Fantasy X. Other than that, Final Fantasy X is really up there. It's got some linear sections. Some of the characters are utterly useless. But other than that, and the sphere grid, go back to traditional leveling, please. Final Fantasy XI, it's an MMO, so that's really more of a flavor thing. There's a lot of things I don't like, a lot of things I do like about 11. Final Fantasy XII, characters, story, ugh. awful. Final Fantasy 13, the way the linearity is presented, I don't think linearity is a problem. 10 did it fine. 13's linearity is not presented well, and the story is not enough of it is told to you. Not enough of the background of the world is told to you. It's kind of similar, I guess, and I guess it's similar to 15 and 4 also, where you kind of just, you gotta want to know certain things, and they're just not given to you. Final Fantasy 14, again, MMO, a lot of things I like, a lot of things I don't like. I talk about that all the time. And Final Fantasy 15 is mostly about character pacing. They let you in on all the information you need to know about some things, but they leave everything out about other things. So that really was the biggest weakness of Final Fantasy 15 to me. Also, just items being way too overpowered. So that was the longest question I'm going to answer here, which completely goes against the whole want to keep this short, but I was challenged. And you know what? You picked the right question to challenge me with, because it got me to answer the whole fucking thing. Anyway, going to move on to the last question on the forums here so I can get to the Twitch questions. And the last question on the forums, Happy is quickly scrolling past my post in the live stream, so I only have a second to say hello to Twitch chat. Hello, everyone. Well, the good news is, guys, there's no 23rd question in the forums. Hi, hello, good morning, good afternoon, happy weekend. Now let's answer some Twitch questions. All right, so the first question we have from the Twitch chat, and this one popped up immediately. How would you recommend spending the next 5 months prepping for Stormblood? First of all, remember that it's a game. Go do other things before it comes out. Honestly, I'm dead serious. A month or two before Stormblood comes out, take like a 6-week break from the game or something. Like, don't force yourself... Sorry, I saw something. Don't force yourself to play it all day, every day, getting ready for the expansion. When half the shit you do isn't going to matter, because you're going to level up, you're going to get new armor, you're going to get new weapons, and it won't matter. Like, what is it? It doesn't. Like, go do something else so you're not burned out of the game before the expansion even comes out. That's what happens to WoW all the time. The PvE's open for fucking 14 months. People have beat the content 14 months ago. They're like, yeah, I can't wait for the expansion to come out. Expansion comes out, they go, what the fuck? I finished this shit in a week. No shit you did, because you've been playing it for the last 14 months, because you burned yourself out before you even fucking played the game. Obviously, you can't do that here because there's no PvE, sad face, but the idea is just don't spend 5 months prepping. Set a guild, do you want to level everything? Set a guild goal, sort of, like mine's 100 mil. Set a guild goal, level things, level your crafters, level your gatherers, just level things. That's it, just level things, get some guild. You'll be fine. Try to get some raid experience also. If you're thinking of raiding in Stormblood, try to get that before Stormblood comes out. I would definitely recommend you do that. Alright, so the next one's kind of a silly one. Happy, how much would you need to raise for X reason to put some color in that beard? So first of all, I still need to get the color up here. I'm not going to make any promises to get any color in the beard because I still haven't fulfilled my hair dye. It's honestly, it's not that I don't want to do it. I actually keep telling myself I'm going to do it. And then I keep going to set up an appointment to go. And then I go, oh, but I got to do this that day and I got to do that day. It's because I work too much. That's literally the only reason this isn't dyed yet. So I just got to, until I make time for this, I'm not even going to offer this up as a reward. So, nothing. All right, next question I have is, are you worried about jobs falling out of favor as more jobs get introduced? I mean, am I worried about it? It's already happened. You know, even when there were only 10 jobs in the game, there were 8 party slots, 10 jobs. The way that if you were one of the 2 jobs that people didn't bring as often, oh man, Summoner was one of them because of MP issues on a lot of fights. Although they were really good in the earlier tiers, as the tiers got later and later, Summoner's finite MP pool, and people sticking raises on them to boot, was a huge issue for a while. Dragoons had the issue of no magic defense, and then once Dragoons didn't have the magic defense issue, they were generally favored over monks if you had enough gear to survive turn 13. So it happened then, as soon as they added 3 more jobs, look at every week, what is one discussion we have? Why? What do they need to do to Paladin to buff it? What do they need to do to Monk to make people play it? Why? What happened to White Mage? Every week I answer one of a question. That's at least one question that's like that. So, yes, it's going to happen more and more and more, especially if they're going to keep making content that's between 4 to 8 people. Don't get me wrong. I don't think the solution is to make content have more people. The last thing I want to do is deal with even more people in raid content. But it's just a natural event. It's a matter of making sure that they're so close to each other that unless you're a min-maxer, here's my favorite phrase. If you're not a min-maxer and you want to play Paladin, and somebody tells you, no, don't play Paladin, It's not as good as the other ones. Here's what you say. Who gives a fuck? Do I look like I'm min-maxing? Who gives a fuck? I do. Shut the fuck up. In a nutshell. So that's, yeah, it's going to happen, but it's a matter of still. What do you want to play, and what are they buffing, what are they nerfing? All right, so the last question I'm going to take for this week, it took me a while to pick one, because a lot of them are questions I kind of answered before, and this one I've answered before, but it's been a while. So I'll take it. Mr. Happy, any tips you can give for a first-time Twitch streamer? Literally the most basic question. My number one thing is don't think you're gonna fucking all of a sudden make it your living. Don't be like, you know what? I have no following. I hang out on Twitch. I'm going to be a Twitch streamer, and I'm going to be partnered. And I'm going to make my living doing this. If you go into it with that expectation, unless you blow up, because you do something so crazy unique, and you plan it to the nth degree, and just your life takes a 180, that is an unrealistic expectation. Sometimes people get into Twitch with that expectation. I see somebody else doing what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. And then time goes, and time passes, and things don't improve, and they don't try to do anything that's new. If you go into it with that expectation, you're going to crush your own dreams most of the time. You go in and you go, you know what? It's fun to share games with people, but I'm always playing from home, and I never get to like really get that whole playing a game on a couch kind of feeling. So I want to live stream, you know? Maybe I'll have one or two other people, but you know, I can hang out and have fun. And that's really why you should do it. That's why I did it in the first place. That's why I started making YouTube videos in the first place. Was because it was fun. I didn't expect to make a fucking living off this shit. I was like, people can do that? I saw other people doing it, and I was like, I would love to have that one day, but I'm just gonna, whatever. If I want to make a YouTube video, I'll make a YouTube video. Oh, maybe I should try streaming again. It's been a while. Hey, this is going all right. And then when I did start stressing out about it for a while, oh my God, I drove myself fucking nuts. So I would just recommend doing it for fun. That's it. You know, do some research, find out what programs there are, figure out which program works best for you. What games do you want to stream? What time do you want to stream? What times can you stream? You know? Things like that, and definitely talk with your friends about it, your direct friends, people who, you know, you hang out with, and, you know, they come by your stream and you play games with them, because that's really going to be the most important thing, is having a fun experience with other people. I mean, the bottom line is, if you're streaming, if you're making YouTube videos, it's because you want people to come watch you play games. When people say, when I stream, I don't really do it so people will watch me. Yes, you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be streaming it. So just be real about that. And try to create a community around your stream. That's really the best things that I could say to do. Just don't take it too seriously. Take setting it up seriously so that it's functional. But after that, don't take it too seriously. That's it. Have a good time. Focus on it. That's it. Have a damn good time. Have a damn good time. Do it. Anyway, that's going to be my last question for the week. Thank you everyone for asking your questions on Mondays with Mr. Happy. Videos at the bottom again for the YouTube side of things. Thank you again, all of you, for watching live on Twitch and for the questions that you submitted, even if they didn't get through. Next Monday is going to be a fun one because it's going to be post 3.5 stuff. I would just ask that you spoiler tag anything that you're going to be asking for next Monday, because we have the spoiler restriction for 2 weeks, don't forget, before we do the spoiler cast. Even though I'm gonna live stream on Tuesday as soon as the patch goes live, and I am going to be watching cutscenes. I'm gonna put that either on the screen or in the title somewhere, so no one's surprised by it. But I'm going to be watching those damn cutscenes. I'm not skipping the 3.5 cutscenes. You are high as a kite if you think I'm skipping those for my live stream. So, spoiler warning, Tuesday and every day after. If you can't get to it right away, spoilers. Anyway, I will see all of you on YouTube next Monday, and of course, join my live stream on Tuesday, 2 a.m. Pacific, while we take on Zervonic stream and check out all the other content in the patch. And on top of that, be ready for next Monday's Mr. Happy, spoiler cast in the coming weeks, and all the other good stuff. Those of you who will be at KupoCon, I'll see you in a week. I'll see you in a week, Kupo. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 2 weeks, KupoCon. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.